Tēnā koutou te whānau o Unitarians o Tamaki Makaurau. Tēnā koutou nā manuhiri. No mai haere mai ki tēnei whare karakia o te atua. Ko Ted Zorn, toko ingoa. No Charleston, South Carolina, USA, aho. Ko Cooper River, te awa. E noho ana aho ke Tamaki Makaurau. No reira, e ro rangatira ma. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. I can all hear you say kia ora through your muted microphones. Welcome, church whānau and visitors, to our gathering for worship. Today, a virtual space made sacred by our coming together and by gatherings of Auckland Unitarian in such spaces for, about 5 or 6 years. It's not the same as being in our beautiful sanctuary, but it's wonderful to be with all of you just the same. Today, we pause to remember how far we have come, through change, through challenge, through joy, and to imagine the future we will create together. This church is not the work of one person or one moment. It is the work of many hearts, many hands, across many years. We come here not only to be nourished, but to nourish. Not only to receive, but to give. Not only to dream, but to build. Let us begin this time together with gratitude for what has been and hope for what is yet to come. Gratitude for what so many before us have done and hope for what we can build in the present and for those who follow us. Welcome to all of you joining us in this Zoom service and to those watching the recording at a later time. To those visiting us for the first time, if there are any, we are grateful that you have chosen to be here with us. To our cherished members and regular attendees, thank you for returning to continue our shared journey in the pursuit of meaning, compassion, and transformation. This service and the shared lunch that was to follow, but will now be held after next week's service, mark the launch of our annual pledge drive. My name is Ted Zorn, and I'll be leading the service today, the theme of which is building virtuous circles. My opening words. I believe the work that we're doing in encouraging people through the pledge drive is fundamentally about stewardship, the careful and responsible management of something that is entrusted to our care. In this case, our church. So my opening words are a poem rightfully called, or appropriately called, The Steward by Anissa Lionheart. I send my roots into the earth, accepting the sacred duty, the gentle, yielding, firm, and fertile ground of the mother. I will water her. I will protect her. I accept responsibility for this ground. I yield to this process. Enveloped by life, by time, I yield to the watching. I accept what it brings. I choose to love what comes before me so that what blooms when I wither away may always be love. So our opening song is hymn 361, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. So I've chosen a version of this song that's more upbeat than what we usually sing when we sing this song. But that's the opportunity we have with Zoom services to be a bit more experimental. So please feel free to sing along, and you might be inspired to dance too, and that's great as well. But do keep your microphone on mute. Let me try to share this. So now for the chalice lighting, I will light a chalice. Invite you to do the same if you'd like to, if you have a chalice nearby or a candle nearby. And we light this chalice to honor the light we carry together. and that we have carried through grief, through hope, through all that has brought us to this moment. And while we may only light one candle today, on the Sundays that follow, many will come forward to light candles, and together we will create more light and more warmth in this world than any one of us can do. May this flame remind us that our future is not something we await, but something we create together. Now, my second attempt at sharing a screen for the covenant in this case. And I will invite you to recite the covenant with me, again with yourself muted if you wish, as I put it on the screen. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is the sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow in harmony. Thus do we covenant with each other and with our God. So it's time for us to share joys and concerns. If you wish to do so, please raise your hand. Use the raise hand function in Zoom to let us know, and that will bring you to the front of the queue on my screen, and be ready to unmute the microphone when I call on you. So I'm going to try another Zoom, another shared song on YouTube. And this is our Koha Hymn, so I can't pass the basket around, but this is we normally do this at a time to our Koha Hymn as the opportunity for those of you who are in the church to give. But I guess the whole service is about giving today, so maybe we don't need a special Koha Hymn. But nevertheless, the hymn I've chosen is called "Building a New Way." It's hymn 1017. So it is actually one that we used last year. We sang in the church last year for the pledge drive. But it was new to many of us at that time, and maybe a bit of a struggle. But this is actually one of the better, in my opinion, one of the better recorded videos of UU hymns. So you really might want to dance with this one. But again, feel free to sing along and dance if you want, but keep the microphone on mute. Don't you think we need a little more soul and gospel in some of our UU songs? Not a bad attempt. So for my reading, I searched a while for a reading that was a good fit, and didn't find anything that I really liked. So while I was searching for something that resonated with how I think about what we're doing in building virtuous circles, not only with pledging, but with all the work we do for our church, as has happened to me before, in thinking about what I was looking for, what I wanted, I started thinking about my own life experiences, and it inspired me to write something. So in this case, it's a sort of a poem about childhood experience. And brings back a happy memory, but makes me a little emotional. So we'll see how that goes. I've called it the Clubhouse. We meet at our secret clubhouse on a hot Carolina summer morning. It's not really secret, not hidden anyway. And truth is, it's more of a ragged platform in a tree than a house. Oh, and we're not really a club. But we are bound together. 6 boys who some years ago wanted our own space. We rummaged around for spare timber and nails to build our hideaway. A place where we got up to mischief, where we sometimes cried or comforted when there was trouble at home, played games, laughed so hard we nearly fell out, tasted a stolen beer, hatched new adventures and plotted future conquests. It's looking a bit tattered. It was always shabby, but now dangerous. Kev punched a foot through the floor last week. We could just leave it and walk away. It needs so much work. Maybe we're too old for this. It's kind of a kid's thing, isn't it? We sit in the clubhouse and we talk about catching pigeons and raising squabs. We talk about the very cute older girls who work at the soda fountain. In silence, we stare out at the fields. Drew sighs and picks up a hammer. He taps some nails that have popped out. We watch him for a while. Russ reaches in his bag and pulls out 3 short but perfect pine boards. Bill helps him position them where they're needed most. I pause, watching them. Yes, we still want this. It's ours. It is us. Bill's my brother who died about 15 years ago. Now for my main talk, my random musings, as Clay used to say, building virtuous circles. When I agreed, yet again, to lead a service at the start of the annual pledge drive, one immediate challenge for me, given my business school background, was branding. How exactly do you make "please help us meet the budget" sound spiritually uplifting? You can't really call the sermon "cash flow for the kingdom," especially not in a Unitarian church. And "friends, let us now contemplate deferred maintenance and operating expenses" just doesn't have quite the same inspirational quality as, say, resurrection. So this year, I was grateful to land on the title Building Virtuous Circles, because it sounds much nobler than Ted talks about church finances again. But what I really want to talk about is momentum, about what happens when a community begins to believe in itself, when people show up, contribute, encourage one another, and discover that their shared efforts are not just keeping something alive, but helping it grow stronger. So let me talk about this idea of building virtuous circles. A virtuous circle is simply a cycle in which good things build on each other. Enthusiasm is contagious. Generosity inspires more generosity. Participation creates energy. And that shared energy strengthens the community, which then encourages more participation as well as hope. The opposite, of course, is a vicious circle. Discouragement lowers participation. Lower participation makes everything harder. That creates more anxiety and less hope, and the cycle feeds on itself. Every community lives with the possibility of both. I felt that very strongly when Clay died. His death had a big effect on me, as I know it did on many of us. Clay was a big reason I kept coming back when I was a new member here almost 6 years ago. He brought something special to this congregation. And when he died, I felt grief, but I also felt worry. I knew there had been times in the past, long before I was a member, when membership was very low, and I suspect energy was too. And my worry, my fear, was that might happen to us again. Part of that fear came from experience. During Clay's illness and for a while after his passing, I coordinated services, and I learned firsthand how difficult it is as a volunteer to schedule good services every Sunday, led by other volunteers. Services that people find meaningful, thoughtful, spiritually nourishing. And yet, we have done it. Not perfectly, certainly not effortlessly, but we have done it. Week after week, people have stepped forward. Guest speakers have enriched us. Members and friends have offered ideas, care, leadership, and loads of practical help to make it all work. And I can continue to come here and leave filled with inspiration, wisdom, and warmth from all of you. That matters, because communities are not built by structures and budgets. They are also built by trust, memory, hope, and steady work. We become what we repeatedly do together. If we repeatedly express negativity or discouragement, if we withdraw and exude low energy, those things begin to define us. But if we repeatedly express warmth, generosity, shared purpose, engage in collective action, those begin to define us too. That is how virtuous circles begin and build. Not with magic, not with perfection, not with one heroic person saving the day. They build when ordinary people do what they can together, and they begin to see that their efforts are making a difference. Last week, Rachel talked about resurrection. She suggested that the Easter story of resurrection can be understood not only as a story about Jesus rising from death, but as the resurrection of love, compassion, and the spirit of nonviolent resistance in those who followed him. And she suggested that we, as UUs, may find resurrection too in the loving fellowship of our community as we strive together to resist oppression and make our communities more loving and inclusive. That idea stayed with me because there is a virtuous circle in that too. When we come together in acts of protest, service, generosity, or care, those acts do good in the world, but they also do something to us individually as well as collectively. They bind us together in solidarity. They deepen our sense of shared purpose. They make our community stronger, which in turn allows us to have even greater impact. The action strengthens the community, and the strengthened community further supports action. That is a virtuous circle. And that matters not only spiritually, but practically. Momentum changes how a community feels. It changes how willing people are to volunteer. It changes how visitors experience us. It changes how confidently we can imagine the future. And yes, it changes whether we will eventually be in a position to hire a new minister. It can be tempting to think a minister will save us. But I think just as often it works the other way around. A healthy congregation creates the conditions that attract good ministry. A hopeful and generous congregation makes ministry sustainable. In other words, the path towards calling a minister is not passive waiting. It is active community building. Some of that work is visible and inspiring. Some of it is less glamorous. Last year, we created a new constitution and new financial structures. That may sound boring to some of you. It's not my favorite subject either, but it was necessary and it was important for the health of our congregation, and it took a lot of work by some of our members to make it happen. And those efforts and many other efforts are bearing fruit. We are building a virtuous circle. I'm not sure how many of you know this, but financially, this has been a very successful year for us. We ended the year financially stronger than expected, bringing in donations above the amounts budgeted in almost every category, including, importantly, the General Congregation Fund, which pays for our operating expenses, and the Ministerial Fund that we started last year, which we're building up to put us into position to hire a new minister. Our total pledge amount is up quite a lot relative to recent years. And given our pledge drive started quite late last year, we did much of this in just 8 months. Now, we're not wealthy enough that we can start spending up large with all that cash. No retreats in Fiji, sorry. Not by a long shot. But these results show that we're not just treading water financially, we are building momentum. And because of this momentum, we're able to set goals that build on our success. Now, let me be clear, we would be doing very well just to repeat last year's results. But the targets you'll see on the pledge form represent a small increase on this year's achievements, and I believe we can hit those targets. That is not taking a defensive posture or a matter of just holding on until we get a new minister. Our posture is an aspirational one, but grounded in hard evidence that we do have momentum. And that brings us to today, because this service marks the start of our annual pledge drive, as I've said. A pledge drive is, of course, about money. Churches need money to function. We need to pay bills, maintain our building, support programs, and create the stability without which vision remains only vision. But a pledge drive is also about belief. A pledge is a vote of confidence. It says, this community matters to me. It is worth sustaining. It has a future, and I want to help strengthen that future. Congregational flourishing rarely comes from one person doing everything. It comes from many people giving what they can. One person offers money. Another manages our money. Another manages our building rentals. Another brings food. Another makes the tea. Another welcomes newcomers. Another serves on a committee. Another tidies up after services and events. Another quietly keeps things running behind the scenes. And together, those gifts build community. This year, we've created another way to strengthen our future, a bequest process. That gives people a way to support the church through a gift in their will. So I'm personally enthusiastic about this because it's something I have been wanting to do myself. I'm afraid the church won't get rich off my estate, but a request says, I believe this community should outlast me. I believe it should continue to nurture, challenge, and inspire people in the future. That too is part of building virtuous circles. It's very easy to underestimate the ripple effect of your own participation. You may think your pledge is modest. You may think your volunteering is small. You may think your presence on a Sunday hardly matters. But in communities like ours, everything matters. Your presence helps create the atmosphere someone else walks into. Your giving helps create the stability someone else relies on. Your warmth creates the welcome someone else needs. The answer to what kind of community we are does not come only from what we say. It comes from what we do together over time. So as we begin this year's pledge drive, I hope we will think not in terms of pressure, but possibility. Not in terms of scarcity, but momentum. Not in terms of worry or fear, but virtuous circles. What circle do you want to strengthen? What kind of future do you want to make more likely? Do we want to make more likely? I believe we can build on the many good things already happening here so that in the coming years, we are not merely surviving, but stronger, more confident, more connected, and more ready for what comes next. And I believe that because we can see signs of it happening. So let us build Let us build trust. Let us build generosity. Let us build confidence. Let us build the habits, structures, and relationships that create a flourishing congregation. Let us strengthen the virtuous circles already beginning to turn among us. And let us do so knowing that every act of commitment, every pledge, every gift of time, every welcome, every moment of care helps create the future we hope for, including soon calling a minister from a position of strength. May we be a people who build on success. May we be a people who support and encourage one another. May we be a people who turn hope into action. And may the circles we build together become strong enough to carry this community forward with love and joy. Amen. Now it's time for the closing song. Thanks, Alex. It's time for the closing song. So another nice thing about the Zoom services is that we have a bit more freedom to expand beyond our hymnal for music. So the song I've chosen for our closing song feels perfect to me. I don't know how you'll feel about it. It's Patti Smith singing her song, People Have the Power. So I'll share that now, if I can. The power to dream, to rule, to wrestle the world from fools. Let's hope. My closing words are another poem, this one by Margaret Wheatley, called Turning to One Another. There is no greater power than a community discovering what it cares about. Ask what is possible, not what's wrong. Keep asking. Notice what you care about. Assume that many others share your dreams. Be brave enough to start a conversation that matters. Talk to people you know. Talk to people you don't know. Talk to people you never talk to. Be intrigued by the differences you hear. Expect to be surprised. Treasure curiosity more than certainty. Invite in everybody who cares to work on what's possible. Acknowledge that everyone is an expert about something. Know that creative solutions come from new connections. Remember, you don't fear people whose story you know. Real listening always brings people closer together. Trust that meaningful conversations can change your world. Rely on human goodness. Stay together. So it's now time to extinguish the chalice. And mine is just about extinguished on its own, but not quite. So I will share the screen. And you would like to recite these words with your mute on. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, the fire of commitment, or the power of transformation. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Okay, so that brings us to the end then. What we normally would do at this point is to have discussion. So we have, if you're not planning on staying for the discussion, and I know people have to batten down the hatches and prepare for the buy toilet paper rolls and all the rest for our one day of hurricane or cyclone. But if you're not going to stay for the discussion, now would be a good time to wave goodbye and to log off. But otherwise, I will have some. I have some discussion questions, but there may be other things you want to discuss. So I'll put the discussion questions in the chat. And I'm thinking with so many people left, it makes sense to put us into about 3 different groups. Is that okay? That seem reasonable? Okay. I will, put my suggested questions in the chat. And again, you can discuss these if you want to, or you can discuss something else.